10 things I did after 50 that made life more meaningful. Someone once told me, after 50, life is all downhill. Health declines, work fades, the kids are grown, nothing new to look forward to. And I believed it for quite a long time. I lived as if I were simply waiting out the days, waiting for the kids to settle down, waiting to retire, waiting for something, though I didn't quite know what. Then one day it hit me. If I wake up each morning, still breathing, still able to feel the sun, smell the coffee, and hear birdsong outside my window, isn't that already something beautiful? Since then, I started to change. Not drastically, not dramatically, just little by little. I chose to live differently. Not for anyone else, but for me. And here are 10 things I quietly began doing after turning 50. And through them, I discovered life doesn't end. It simply begins a new chapter. Gentler, deeper, and somehow happier. 1. I learned to forgive, starting with myself. I used to lie awake many nights thinking of things left undone. Missed opportunities, unspoken apologies, relationships that had crumbled over the years. I blamed myself a lot. One quiet afternoon during a short meditation session my daughter signed me up for, I heard something that made me cry. Forgiveness isn't about letting others off the hook. It's about setting yourself free. I started writing down everything that weighed on me. Then I burned the paper. Strangely, I felt lighter. That was the first time in years I allowed myself to feel at peace. 2. I called my old friends. One rainy afternoon, I pulled out an old photo of my college friends. The picture was blurry, but our smiles were radiant. My eyes welled up unexpectedly. That evening, I called Lan, my best friend from back then. When she heard my voice, she paused for a moment and said, "You sound just the same." We talked for nearly 2 hours, like no time had passed at all. Since then, I've called a few more friends. Some were busy, some were emotional, but none refused the call. Each conversation reconnected a thread I thought was long broken. 3. I started keeping a journal. Nothing fancy, just a few lines each day, a small story, a fleeting feeling. Journaling helped me slow down. Through it, I started noticing the small joys I used to overlook. A breezy afternoon, the smell of freshly baked bread from next door, the sparkle in my grandson's eyes when praised. Gradually, I realized journaling wasn't just recording. It was having a conversation with myself. 4. I embraced doing one thing. Slowly before, I was always multitasking. Eating while watching the news, talking while scrolling my phone, cleaning while making mental to-do lists. But one morning, while drinking tea and doing nothing else, I suddenly noticed the scent of jasmine, the warmth of the cup in my hand, the stillness around me. That moment felt fuller than any I'd had in a long time. Now I let myself do just one thing at a time. When I cook, I only cook. When I water the plants, I really see the leaves glisten. When I laugh, I don't think about anything else. It's strange how the smallest things can become beautiful when we give them our full attention. 5. I took care of my body without chasing youth. I used to think exercise was for the young, the toned, the fit, the ones chasing abs. But after a minor fall that left me aching for days, I realized this body, at over 50, still carries me through life. It deserves care. I didn't join a gym or start counting calories. I just began walking. I stretched in the mornings. I learned to listen when my body said, "Enough." Some days I feel strong. Some days I ache. But every day I thank my body for showing up with me. 6. I said no without feeling guilty. For years, I said yes to things I didn't want to do, out of politeness, fear, or habit. Then one day, I said no to a weekend gathering I wasn't excited about. I stayed home, read a book, made soup, and I felt free. No one got angry. The world didn't end. I realized that no is a full sentence, and a kind one too when spoken with honesty. Since then, I've protected my time more gently, not to be selfish, but to be sincere, both to others and myself. 7. I gave away things I no longer needed. I had closets full of clothes I hadn't worn in years, books I never planned to read again, kitchen tools gathering dust. At first I hesitated. What if I need this someday? But as I started giving them away, to neighbors, to charities, to friends, I felt lighter. Letting go of objects became a practice in letting go of the past, of what-ifs, of versions of myself that no longer fit. Now I find joy in the space I've created, not just in my home, but in my heart. 8. I spent more time with children, not just my grandchildren, but any child, at the park, at family events, even on the bus. Children live in the present. They laugh when they're happy, cry when they're sad, and then move on. They remind me that life is not so serious. I learned to play again, to sit on the ground, to be silly, to ask why more often. Children taught me that aging isn't about fading, it's about returning to simplicity. 9. I let silence be a friend. There was a time I filled every moment with noise. The TV always on, the phone always near, some music always playing. But one evening during a blackout, I sat alone in the dark with just a candle and my breath. And I didn't feel lonely. I felt still. Since then, I've made room for silence. Sometimes it's just 5 minutes in the morning. Sometimes a quiet walk without my phone. Silence no longer feels empty. It feels full of presence, of awareness, of life. 10. I stopped waiting for a big purpose. For so long, I searched for meaning in work, in accomplishments, in goals. But one afternoon, while watching the light shift through the window and hearing my neighbor's laughter drift through the air, I realized meaning is not always something grand. Sometimes it's simply noticing what's already here. Now I no longer wait for something bigger. I find purpose in small acts. Making tea for my partner, calling an old friend, smiling at a stranger. Life doesn't have to be loud to be meaningful. Sometimes a whisper is enough. I used to think that growing older meant becoming less active, less needed, less important. But now I see it differently. After 50, I didn't shrink. I expanded in awareness, in kindness, in understanding. The world didn't slow down. I did. And in doing so, I began to truly see it. No, life isn't the same as it was in my 30s or 40s. But in many ways, it's deeper, softer, more meaningful. So if you ever feel like life is winding down, remember, sometimes the most beautiful parts of the journey come after the halfway point.